They are supposed to deliver that particular ruling to the Chinsali High Court and argue that kindly vacate your court orders to restrain us from holding elections in Kawambwa because of this ruling. And of course, we are going to challenge it. There's been a total misinterpretation of that judgment from the Concord. We have our reasons, and we're going to argue in that court. But they've bypassed that process and called for that election. Why has Nixon, Chilangwa, and Chitotela disputed the facts and appealed? One simple reason. The magistrate involved misconducted himself during trial. Now, I'm not using those words. Yeah, I'm not using those words, strong words, against a member of the judiciary lightly. They proceeded to file a report to the Judicial Complaints Commission over the misconduct of this magistrate. He was clearly a magistrate under direction and instructions to ensure that that they are convicted. They took text messages, WhatsApp messages, they took audio and other documentary evidence and filed before the JCC. So that, and then they proceeded with that complaint and that evidence, filed a letter of recusal to the magistrate and asked the magistrate to recuse himself. Of course, the magistrate didn't recuse himself. The magistrate proceeded even to...
So the audios and text messages were evidence of what?
Of the misconduct of the magistrate. They were, that's why we wanted, that's why Honorable Nixon Chilangwa wanted the JCC, who supervises magistrates, judges, and and Supreme Court justices and Concord justices, to look into this very serious complaint of the misconduct of the magistrate. But as you have known, none of that happened. The magistrate proceeded to hear, like I'm saying, the matter. He proceeded to even jail the 6. So one of the reasons we've appealed, other than that, that there was this issue of recusal, is that, for example, both of them say they were not even present at the scene when that event occurred. And how do you jail people for arson or for malicious damage when they're not even present at the scene? So, but these are details for appeal. They've appealed. And so the law requires that they are deemed innocent until proven guilty. The law requires, the Constitution guarantees you the right to appeal, the right to due process. And that's what those 2 members of parliament and the others are going through.
So why then are you participating in an illegality?
So we have learned that President Hakainde Hichilema, and we name him by his name, is fostering a tyrannical government in this country, is fostering dictatorship in this country. He's interfering with all institutions. He has bled their independence. He has bled the separation of powers, the principle of separation of powers. He has shrunk the democratic space, a word we use frequently. We saw in the interference in Kwacha and Kabushi, where the president was packed in Kabushi and campaigning, yet there was a court order to suspend that election. There was a court order that there should not be that election, and he was continuously campaigning despite the court order that Malanje and Bowman Lusambo had obtained. So he is lawless in his approach. He ignores the law, he breaches the law, he ignores the Constitution, he breaks the law. We lost Kawata, we lost Kwacha and Kabushi because of those issues. And our candidates were deprived of their participation. And we are glad that we have on record the Constitutional Court ruling that has stated that both Malanje and Bowman Lusambo were disenfranchised illegally from participating in that election. The judgment came far later, way after the seats, the elections had taken place.
Doesn't that amount to declare those now and void?
Yes, yes. We now took that Concord decision to our election petition in the High Court. There has been an active election petition in the High Court and in the Appeals Court, and we hope that one day it will be heard, and those seats are supposed to be declared vacant in support of, actually, as directed by the Constitutional Court, that validly nominated candidates or validly citizens were prevented from participating in that election. But that is the environment we are living in. So remember, from November, we have not participated in any election because ECZ under Mangala Zalomis and McDonald Penzi decided to introduce a new regulation that all certificates, adoption certificate by all candidates, whether they are councillors, they are council chairperson, they are mayors, they are MPs, have to be signed by the president of the party and the secretary general. This was in light of the changes that were illegally done at the Registrar of Societies, where they had replaced Edgar Lungu with Mao Sampa. And therefore they knew if they make that demand, Edgar Lungu and Raphael Nakachinda signs, they knew that this is there to reject that certificate. And that's what has happened. We have not participated in these deliberately called ward elections and other elections. But we decided that while our lawyers are battling with these issues of illegalities by ECZ, while our lawyers are fighting our cases in court, there are some things that can be done politically. And some of the political decisions is, for example, our presence in the United Kwacha Alliance and our subsequent presence in Tonse Alliance, our opening of doors to discussions with other political parties such as the Socialist Party or the Zambia Must Prosper or any other political party. The party, remember when I was last year, I announced that the Central Committee of our party mandated us to, number one, join political alliances, but with standards. Look, you guys, you are the largest opposition party in Zambia. You have a former president as your president. You have over 50 members of parliament. You are strong. You just can't enter into any alliance just like that. Set some minimum parameters that do not disadvantage you, and that's what we've done. We also mandated to enter into electoral pacts. Other than political alliances, we also mandated to enter into electoral pacts. For example, if we find that a candidate, for example, there's an election in Shangombo, and we think that Socialist Party is strong, although we may not be in alliance with Socialist Party, there's room in an electoral pact where maybe we can present a strong candidate to Socialist Party and alert them that we have this strong candidate, and maybe he may use your vehicle to stand. So that's some of the electoral pacts that we may engage in. This is to recognize the current environment that President Hakainde Hichilema, who appears he wants to be a president of PF, we might have to accept that he will not let go of the PF. He wants to be de facto president of Patriotic Front. And Naba Ikakatila PF, you know, just recently he engineered, State House engineered the removal of Mao Sampa, and now they are sponsoring Robert Chavinga Mafinga MP, and you have seen the president, especially from the last ceremony in Mansa, Kuchabuka ceremony, where the president called Robert Chavinga as leader of the opposition in parliament and acting president of the Patriotic Front. The president knows that those are illegalities, but he's the one that has carried Chavinga on the plane. He's the one that puts him in his entourage. He's the one that puts him on the forum. And he's the one that allows him to say this. So you have a president who's masquerading as a Patriotic Front president. He's deciding what should happen in PF. He's deciding who should be suspended in PF. He's deciding what name should be on the registrar. You recently heard that Registrar of Societies, upon served with a court order, contempt proceedings, that she should face contempt proceedings for changing office bearers from Mal Sampa to Robert Chavinga. She immediately resigned, and she said she didn't want to be part of the illegalities that the Ministry of Home Affairs under Honorable Jack Mwimbo and Honorable Dixon Matembo and the illegalities they are doing to the office of the Registrar of Societies. She resigned because she knew the consequences would be on her as registrar. It is her signature, it is her name that will be will face the consequences of the illegalities that President Hakainde Hichilema is doing. And that is our warning to other public officials, civil servants and others. They are telling you to sign those contracts. It is you who will be held personally responsible. It is you that will be personally liable for all these things. I felt sad when I watched the Minister of Mines, Honorable Paul Kabuswe, in Parliament, where he was saying, no, we have not sold Mopani to anyone, no shares were sold, no transfer was done.
We'll come to that.
Yes.
Come to that because
but Parliament is asking him.
Yeah.
He's a Minister of Mines. He's the one that's liable for the illegalities that have occurred.
Yeah, but before we get to that, and I know we'll come to that, but let's while we are talking about your participation in the Kawambwa by-election, finally, you got the filing done, right? And it was a battle, I think, initially. But finally you filed in, and then my question now is this the candidate that you think will get that seat back to the Patriotic Front, although it's going to be under the new Congress party?
So, like I stated, the party has mandated President Lungu to enter into any alliance, political alliance, to enter into any electoral pact. And what you saw in Kawambwa is just part of the broader decisions that were made, that as we battle to get the Patriotic Front from President Hakainde Hichilema, we still have to participate. We have to provide directions to our members. Our decision to use a new Congress party is for Kawambwa. Remember, in Chilabombo, we have used FDD. FDD has featured a candidate at council level. We couldn't file in Shangombo, but FDD has come on board to feature a candidate in Chilabombo, and we need to acknowledge and thank Honorable Harry Kalaba of Citizen First, who made a last-minute withdrawal because he felt that the candidates for the opposition were already numerous. There was one for PPAZ, there was one for the New Congress Party, there was one for Socialist Party, and Honorable Kalaba, who was supposed to file a Citizen First candidate under United Kwacha Alliance, decided that in the interest of unity in the opposition, that he will not participate.
No,
for us, Zach, that's a magnanimity we need to engage in. Members of the opposition must understand that you have a ruthless leader leading this country who's determined to clamp down on all our rights and freedom, all our political and civil rights, to participate in the democratic process of our country. He's very determined. And to fight him and be an alternative to our people who are suffering, and suffering deeply from the worst load shedding we've ever had, to the cost of living crisis, where we truly, our people can't afford the cost of milling meal, cost of fuel, cost of electricity, cost of everything, totally unaffordable, where our public workers are heavily indebted and can only get a 500 kwacha increment. The people of Zambia, like that farmer who can't receive fertilizer on time, and this is November and it's raining, like that worker that is struggling to survive under this cost of living crisis, where you need up to 10,400 kwacha for a family of 5 just to survive. They are looking up to the alternative to President Hakainde Hichilema. Who is the alternative? It is us in the opposition. If we are fragmented, we will be giving President Hakainde Hichilema this election in 2026 on a silver platter. It will be like the Mwanawasa election, where Mwanawasa got 29% and the opposition got 71%. But because they were fragmented, Mwanawasa, who was such a minority president, became president of this country. So similarly, we may be strong, our people may be determined, but if we are fragmented, we are not working in unity, will allow the UPND to, sail through under the circumstances that will have disappointed the people of Zambia. Look at Dilika Ward, Inchpata, where the combined votes of the opposition beat the UPND candidate. Why did the UPND candidate win in Dilika? Because the opposition was fragmented. Yet the opposition have got more numbers than the UPND candidate. It becomes an imperative for the opposition to be united. It becomes an imperative for all of us to subdue our personal ambitions and interests and look at the bigger goal. Look at a candidate who can win us elections. Is it Edgar Lungu? Is it Harry Kalaba? Is it Fred Membe? Is it Brian Munduvile? Is it Emmanuel Mwamba? Who is it that can win us this election? And we have to seriously, like the Patriotic Front has decided, we want to lead in bringing together all these voices that are scattered in the opposition.
So I zero in into Kawamba, and your candidate is Mr. Dunstan Mansa. Is this the man that you think people of Kawamba will definitely vote for?
The message is very simple. Mwe bantu bakwalesa nabamika kila bantu benu kuli aba bantu abankalwe nabesa bamipoka entungulushi bamipoka council chairperson bamipoka na MP bishokutuma abavotela. Really? Is this how you repair?
So you want to get a sympathy vote?
Why not? Why not? In honor of Nixon Chilangwa and every other person that has been disenfranchised, there is no shame in demonstrating that they've suffered injustice. The seat belongs to Chitotela and it belongs to Nixon Chilangwa. And stealing it in the manner they are stealing it, the only way we can show this government the red card that Mwaya sana is by voting for this candidate that the Patriotic Front, together with in alliance with Tonse, have fielded. That is the only way that the people of Kawambwa can honor their beloved MP, who they loved so much. Look at the margins in which he won those elections. And he was in his third term. That's how popular Nixon Chilangwa was. So we have no shame to say that what has happened is an injustice. It's a waste of public resources. That by-election should not be taking place. But because you have a tyrannical government determined to have numbers in parliament, you heard the president yesterday, and he's been carried in today's newspapers, where he has promised that there will be constitutional amendments. It doesn't matter what the church say. It doesn't matter what we, the opposition, are saying. It doesn't matter the church, the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops, and their pastoral letter that was issued just last week. It has advised President Hakainde Hichilema to withdraw that bill on hate speech, which is calling to jail people for 20 years. It has called for him to halt the process for constitutional amendments or constitutional reforms because there's just no time. President Hakainde Hichilema is only remaining with 18 months before he leaves office. Why is he embarking on these issues that are well drawn out, require a lot of time to build consensus and agreement before you can even table it before Parliament? But will you listen to them? It's not that he didn't read the pastoral letter, which pastoral letter represents the voice of many Zambians, many stakeholders, many civil society groupings, many political groupings. He has totally ignored that voice, and he has announced he will proceed with constitutional amendments.
Let me take you to the issue that occurred on Sunday when the whole nation had a blackout. First of all, I'm aware that this is not the first blackout that we are facing. We faced a blackout under the patriotic regime. But also, what is interesting is the fact that former head of state in President Edgar Chagwa Lungu has come out to talk about what happened on Sunday. And in his statement, he's saying the national power blackout we experienced last night is an ultimate manifestation, manifestation and clear confirmation of how ZESCO, our national utility company, has been driven into complete ruins by the new doom government. End of quote. Now, here, it might, and a lot of people feel that he should be the last person to comment on the blackout. Why? Because in 2021, when this New Dawn government took over, they found ZESCO was highly indebted, a company that was highly indebted. If at all it has downsized its employees and the like, it's all in an effort to see to it that they reduce an expenditure and be able to service the debt that this utility company had accumulated. And to date, we are told that they have done a tremendous job in obviously paying back the debt, and then debt which was obviously accumulated by ZESCO under the PF regime. That's what we're talking about. These could only be manifestations of what you left ZESCO in. I mean, you left ZESCO in debt, and this could just be the manifestation of the recklessness in terms of the borrowing that this company made.
Yeah. First of all, the former president is right under the state of ZESCO. It's under paralysis. ZESCO was told you'll have the worst drought probably in many decades. And the Zambezi River Authority allocated the volume of water that ZESCO could use in a period of 1 year for 2024. What ZESCO should have done was to begin rationing that water, begin minimal load shedding, maybe of 3 hours every day, so that it could see us through to the next rainfall. ZESCO, the board and management and President Hakainde Hichilema, because ZESCO has a board that is appointed by IDC. President Hakainde Hichilema directly appointed Victor Mapani, who was a managing director until recently. So they are all liable for the mess that is occurring at ZESCO. ZESCO proceeded to engage in these huge exports of power to Namibia, Botswana, to South Africa, and to the Southern African power pool. There are those traditional exports we do to Tanzania, Malawi, and DRC. There was a warning by various experts. No. You can't be exporting this kind of power up to 1,200 megawatts. Slow down. The justification that you have a debt that you need to clear doesn't arise. Because when you have a crisis, you're going to accumulate even a far bigger and far faster debt like what we are seeing. Now you have ZESCO passing on the buck to the people of Zambia under emergency tariffs, that people of Zambia must finance the importation of power. What reckless management and board is that? The president is right. It's recklessness. So they cleared the bills just yesterday at their press conference. They told you how much they are accumulating in debt per month. Isn't that $48 million? What will it do until we have sufficient power by March? How much will that be? So should the president have spoken because he had various crises? What did President Edgar Lungu do in his time? Number one, the PF under President Michael Sata and Edgar Lungu found power generation capacity of 1,600 megawatts. 1,600 megawatts. Power consumption in this country at peak is 2,200 megawatts. So we invested in power generation capacity. And you saw, by the time President Hakainde Hichilema was coming into office and President Edgar Lungu was leaving office, the generation capacity was now at 3,700, over and above the national consumption that we do at peak of 2,200. Abanensu, that excess power of over 1,200. What did they do, Zach? They thought it's just power to export. There is nothing wrong with export of power because you can't save it. You can't put it in batteries, at industrial level. You need to find and see who you can supply it to. Hence, ZESCO should have entered into contracts that are flexible. In light of the warning that was given, first of all, they shouldn't have been exporting the volumes they were exporting. Two, the contracts must have been with very strong exit clauses that in light of a shortage, they could pull out. Up to now, ZESCO is still exporting power to Botswana and Namibia. Up to now, our people do not have power, but Gaborone has power. You cannot be trying to shine Mukomboni. Abana tabadile, ule disha ba neighbor. So that you look good to the neighbors. But abana bobe tabadile. You are absconding your duties as a parent. That's what ZESCO and this paralysis is. The cost to the economy is so huge. So huge. Remember the Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Stumeko Msokotwane, had said we will have growth of up to 4.7% in 2024. It's been revised to 1.2%. We actually maybe have a depressed economy for who we know. Because if they can
his projections were all things being equal and didn't foresee the drought situation.
Sadly, he projected in 2021 that the economy will grow around 5.2%. Well, it grew only by 2.7%. 2022, 2023 predicted that the economy will grow by 4.7%. It grew by 2.5%. This year, he projected that the economy will grow by 4.5%. It's now at 1.2%, or probably we're even in depression. So I wonder what an economist he is. Maybe may not be an economist for our times because he has missed the mark from 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. At every stage in the middle of the term, he'll bring a supplementary budget as if he didn't know that these matters will arise. He would want more money than he had budgeted for. And then he would revise the economy down, its growth rate. So for me, I think there are contingencies in planning. There are expert knowledge, like we knew that there was a drought coming. We were warned. In fact, for the PF, when we had the worst drought in 2015, we were warned that another drought is coming in 2023, 2024, because the cycle of this El Nino seems to be 9 to 10 years. Hence, if you saw, the Patriotic Front began to build up maize reserves. From 2019, we banned exports. 2020, we banned exports. 2021, we banned exports. When President Hakainde Hichilema came into office, we had saved up to 1.5 million metric tons from 3 seasons. You don't build up that kind of reserves, national strategic reserves with the Food Reserve Agency under 1 season. No, you do not. But him, by share kwa tinsango hapo, no kwamba kugoleka, kushtisha, and he began to sell everywhere, on the pretext that he needed to pay the farmers. How do we pay the farmers always? The farmers are crying that they are owed. Just now, last week, there was a statement that the farmers are owed over 500 million kwacha. And we are going into a farming season. I saw later, 2 days later, a statement from the Secretary to Treasury committing himself that they will dismantle the 500 million they owe our farmers. So have they exported maize to pay those farmers? No, they have not. And that's what previous ministers of finance have done. It's better to keep the reserves and then look for money, pay the farmers, but you have national strategic reserves. Remember, national food reserve is national security. Food security is national security. You lose food security, you lose national security. Because you can have food riots, you can have riots, you can have demonstrations, you can have picketing, and you can have a spike in the economy of inflation because you don't have food. You have to import it. People have to scrounge for it. As we are seated now, I'm told we do not have wheat. Wheat has run out. So do not be surprised if bread, for example, also goes very high because people have to import. They have to import wheat. We've been importing some maize, we know. We saw ZNS get permission from Cabinet from Cabinet Office that they'll be importing for a period of 10 months maize and mealie meal from South Africa. So food security is national security. You lose food security, you lose national security. But our people do not understand. Our leaders in power currently do not understand. So they would rather risk national security. They would rather, because of business decisions, no humanity in their decisions.
Now, let's move to Parliament, because obviously you had preempted the matter in as far as Mopani is concerned. You don't seem satisfied by the explanation and response by the minister as to also why the sale of the shares in Mopani did not require Article 210 to apply on it. I mean, he has explained it several times. We seem not to be getting it.
Yeah.
How else would you rather it is explained?
Zach, the UPND always try to bash us. You people accept that President Hakainde Hichilema is working. He has delivered free education. He has delivered CDF. He has revived the mines on the Copper Belt and in Northwestern Province. You are not just being grateful. Well, our answers are very simple. Well, CDF, remove the corruption. It's a looting frenzy for UPND cadres and their cooperatives. Remove the corruption, maybe we'll praise you. Free education, well, you cannot have a teacher having 120 students. Just in one subject here, she or he has 120 books. What about our subjects 6 to 9? How does a teacher cope?
Where do you find corruption in CDF?
It's a looting frenzy for cooperatives and the UPND. Take, for example, the matter that is currently in Parliament. Ambulances were procured last year for this year under 2024 CDF. Is that a decision of CDF to buy ambulances? Should that be a decision of CDF? Why are you buying it from the center? Does Lusaka Central need an ambulance? Does it? So
it's a decision of CDF.
You have corrupt decision. No, like communities must decide. Communities must decide if they need an ambulance.
But every community does need.
That is a job. You have a budget and you have an allocation under Ministry of Health.
So what do you say with police vehicles that were
same? We have Home Affairs Ministry and the Zambia Police. They have their own budgets. It's not the use of CDF funds to fund police activities. These are central government roles. But it's motivated by corruption, because if you are buying 156 vehicles at once, as you've seen, the Auditor General has flagged this payment. I don't know if you were watching yesterday's Public Accounts Committee.
Yeah.
It's very damning. Number one, they ignore Toyota, who are the franchise holder, who have the manufacturing links. They ignore. They get a pharmaceutical company to import ambulances. Ambulances. Already red flags. They ignore the law. Under the ZPPA Act of 2020, you have to use open bidding. That's a preferred method for use of public funds. They chose single sourcing, direct bidding, limited bidding, which we use under emergencies. Okay, you use that, number one, if, for example, there's no other supplier. Number two, if there's an emergency. It wasn't an emergency, as you saw from what Parliament was hearing and the MPs were querying. They signed an agreement of 1 year, 6 months. Where is the emergency? Emergency procurement requires just short period. They signed a delivery period of 16 to 20 weeks. It's been, all the vehicles are supposed to be in by 31st December. And so far, only 11 vehicles have arrived. So first, the procurement is illegal. You are using unknown suppliers. Ambulances. You ignore the official dealers of Toyota in this country. And so CDF is being used for corruption. Remove the corruption, allow communities to make decisions. Capacitate local communities. Maybe will support CDF. They say the mines. Oh, come on. Let's start with First Quantum. First Quantum owns SCCMIH and the Zambian government. $2.5 billion. You and I have spoken about this. There was an audit that established that First Quantum siphoned out $2.5 billion from Kansanshi copper and gold mine in Solwezi. And they were using that money to build a new mine, copper mine, in Panama, in Latin America. They've never returned that $2.5 billion. When the audit established this theft, the CMI management began a process to recover that money. They reported the matter to the police, and they start under the arbitration clause. They started an arbitration clause process in London, and they sued for recovery of that money before the Lusaka High Court. President Hakainde Hichilema comes into office. The first thing he does is to discontinue all those cases in London at the High Court, and the charges, the DPP, who's supposed to be independent, who can be directed, is directed to drop those charges. And the Minister of Mines comes to announce that we've dropped those charges. And the president at every press conference, he always tells you that famous clause, we shall not mine in court. But Mwebantu, $2.5 billion, how shall we recover it? Twebe Niko, okay, you don't mine in court. But Twebe, how shall we recover this $2.5 billion? Because we've discontinued the processes that should have compelled this mine to give us the money and its directors. That was criminal. But no, they are very quiet. In fact, they praise First Quantum every day. They're saying, no, it's bringing an investment of $1.3 billion for that new nickel mine. Again, we have issues there. If you saw the communication, they said they would develop that mine from what ZRA owes them, the VAT tax refunds. So again, they're not bringing in any new money. And sadly, because our people in Panama are very patriotic to their country, they recognize that the copper that First Quantum mine was trying to mine was such wealthy copper that they said, no, Bane, we can't give it to you on your terms. We want higher returns, we want higher shareholding, we want better taxes before you mine. And that mine hasn't been mined for 2 years. So First Quantum is in trouble financially. It's listed in Canada. And you've seen now, they've put the Zambian assets, okay, their mine at Kansanshi and the other mine on sale. If you're following, I usually update my own page that they are looking for bidders, and there's both the Japanese and Chinese bidders who have pledged to buy up to 20% of those assets. So in any day, push up. UPND, under these circumstances, how do we praise them? How? Just tell me if you haven't recovered $2.5 billion. Come to Mopani. Mopani, Zach, is a very, very sad story. They want to paint a glossy picture. It's a very sad story. Let me put it this way. Between 2014 and 2020, Glencore, the owners of that mine, invested $4.5 billion in that mine. They sank 3 brand new shafts, replacing the old shafts that were sunk in 1930 at great cost, $4.5 billion. They even gave us a new concentrator or smelter in Kitwe. Hichilema comes, he knows the figures I've just told you. He knows that that's one of the newest mine in the world, well-capitalized mine in the world. ZCCMIH has told you we just need $300 million. Maybe don't give it to Lusaka and Dola Diokarijo. Give us. We'll begin by the end of the year, we can ramp up production up to 200,000 metric tons.
At that point, ZCCMIH is holding 100%.
It's holding 100% because there has been a sale by 2021, remember. Yeah. Glencore is being pursued by the Serious Frauds Office in London. It's being pursued by the FBI in America for their corruption in Africa, especially West Africa. So the shareholders are being, the owners of the mines across the world are being jittery because FBI and Serious Frauds Office of London are very serious, and it doesn't matter where you are, they will get you. So they decide to book out of these assets. They sold the zinc mine in Namibia. They sold their mining, the platinum operations they had in South Africa. They sold their coal mine assets in Australia. They sold another asset they had in Eastern Europe. They sold the mine in Zambia. That's why the sale was $1. Remember, that sale was $1, but you assume a debt and commitment of $1.5 billion. They say the transaction is complete by 21st March 2021. The transaction is complete. ZCCMIH have reported this transaction to the Lusaka Stock Exchange. Remember, they are listed. Yeah. To the London Stock Exchange. Remember, they are listed in London. To the Paris Exchange, Stock Exchange in Paris. They are listed in London before the suspensions. And the records are there. They've said we now own Mopani Copper Mines 100%. This mine is one of the best well-capitalized mines in the world. We just need $300 million. Government was saying you need a special equity partner. But ZCCMIH is arguing that they can get experts to run that mine. Give us $300 million. President Hichilema is a consummate businessman. He knows the industry very well. He participates in the industry very well. He knows these issues. And he knows you and me, Zach, don't take interest into this. They just tell you, your mine badi salamulechula ifotuka isula. And when they open the mine, you want to be excited. That mine, for me, I've called it theft. First of all, to prevent what happened in the 1990s, where Zambia lost assets and assets. Zambia was one of the most industrialized country in Southern Africa. We're comparable to South Africa, actually. Salisbury was coming second to us, especially that we had the mines. But when we did the privatization process, we lost our industrial base. We became de-industrialized. The privatization program, in fact, spawned the current unemployment rate that we have across Zambia. Because our industry is shut. Our light industry, our heavy industrial places in Lusaka, Ndola, Kitwe, Livingstone went dead. And that's why you see this spike in unemployment. So the crafters and makers of our constitution in 2016 said never again shall a state asset be sold, be transferred, be moved, be changed without the authority of parliament. And they put a cardinal clause, 2/3 majority, because they knew that Zambia one day will have a president with an appetite to sell these assets. He will have an appetite to circumvent the law. So the definition of Article 210, Sub-Article 2, is very broad. It just doesn't...
The minister says this could not be applied. Well, according to advice that he got, obviously, that 210 could not be applied in this case of Mopani because, according to that statement this week, that Mopani was never and is not a parastate.
Okay. So...
because 210, Article 210 is only applicable on parastatals.
It's no. It uses the term state-owned assets and enterprises. Parastatal can fall there. Non-parastatals can fall there. It's a state asset. So let's begin the simple process.
Yeah.
As of August 2021, when President Hakainde Hichilema becomes president, who owns Mopani? Let's have the discussion.
ZCCMIH.
Yeah, you know the facts. Yeah. Who owns ZCCMIH?
It's the government.
Yeah, IDC. Who owns IDC? Who's the chairperson of IDC?
The president.
So, what kind of argument should we even engage in? Don't we have videos and videos on announcements, on press conference, on the launch, that they found a special equity partner who has bought controlling share of 51%, who will bring $1.1 billion. You haven't heard the president make those announcements. Didn't you see the president even order the minister out of his press conference? Go and conclude the Mopani deal. What is a minister, if this is a private entity, what's a minister doing in those matters? Why is the president talking about a private company? Why is the president celebrating in Kitwe that he has opened the mine? This is a state asset. We own, ZCCMIH is owned up to 60% by IDC, which is government, another 17% by NAPSA, which is government, and some shareholding by Ministry of Finance, and then we have a small shareholding of private investors. Literally, the controlling assets of ZCCM are under government. we own IDC. So we owned Mopani. What they've done is criminal. They've looted a well-invested, well-capitalized mine in this country. A country that will milk gold. Within a period of 5 years, it will mint billions. How much is 200,000 metric tons a year? You just need $300 million to finish the entire projects. Because, you know, the shafts were put up, were sunk, the smelters were put up, but they needed to tie up and begin production. That is one of the biggest loot that has ever happened in this country, the sale of Mopani. Who is RIH? No one even knows them. In fact, when you do a search on the internet, I've extensively tried to search who this International Resource Holdings is. In fact, sometimes between 2017 and 2022, you find it's based in Australia, Perth. And there is a Zambian company associated with the president on the same floor with that same company. Go on Google, you'll find. Then 2022, it becomes a subsidiary of International Holdings Company. There's no dispute about International Holdings Company. This is a multi-billion company. It's a sovereign fund, a holding company by the government of the United Arab Emirates. But it's all of a sudden becomes an associated subsidiary of IRH, and it forms Delta, and Delta then owns the Mopani. We have a duty to ask these hard questions to the government of President Hakainde Hichilema. Who have you sold Mopani to? Why have you bypassed Parliament? Why have you broken the law? Why has no money come to the Treasury? There is no single money that has come to the Treasury. The investors only pledged that I'll pay your debt with Glencore. By the way, the debt by then had already, Mopani was paying, and it had dropped from $1.5 billion to around $600-700 million. They negotiated and they paid $450. The investors also said he's going to pick some bills, and he provided $130 to pay some outstanding suppliers. No money has come for the 51% shareholding. At to share 51% shareholding in the Ramashenu. There's just a pledge of investment. Pledge of investment to the company is totally separate from you selling the shares. Now you have the ridiculous stage where the Minister of Mines comes to Parliament and tells you that there has been no sale, no transfer, no such thing happened. I don't know how outraged they want us to be, the way they are treating us like we are children. So, Zach, how can I praise the UPND for opening Mopani in light of those facts? How can I praise the UPND government for opening KCM and giving it back to Vedanta? Vedanta have been here. They bought that mine for $25 million. That mine was worth $650 million. These were not my figures. These were the consultants given by Rothschild at the time. You are aware that you have Konkola Deep, which has copper reserves of $200 billion. And you require about $1.5 billion to sink a shaft and to deal with its water. It was sold for $25 million under Mwanawasa. We called it a scandal. It remains a scandal. But for 20 years, they never paid any taxes. They engaged in mining practices that devalued those assets. They didn't commit in anything. In fact, the man became a billionaire elsewhere, bought mining assets in Eastern Europe, in South Africa, even built one of the best business schools in India from Konkola copper mines. 20 years later, you want us to ignore that history and you give it back to Vedanta. And me, I should be clapping.
But for 20 years, you ignored that.
No, we didn't. I'm glad that President Edgar Lungu took action, that an audit was done. There's a very damning audit, and the media should take interest in it. That took place 2015-2016. Access that audit. It will tell you what Vedanta were engaged in. It premeditated the decision to now come and remove them. And I may not agree with the decision, for example, to put it under liquidation. For me, I think their license should just have been cancelled, and you give the mine back in light of that damning audit and the theft that was occurring and their failure to pay utility companies taxes, a bill of $1.5 billion. We expected, for me, I would have rather ZCM takes over, pays all these liabilities and begin to mine. That's one of the wealthiest mines in the world. I've just told you that Konkola Deep, where they've even found so-called, the other mine they're touting in America that Bill Gates and others have bought.
Yeah.
Those assets have been under Konkola. Yeah, those assets have been under Konkola. You know that. So you have a mine that also wealthy mine requires just small things to be done. But we are so disloyal to our own country that we will not allow that. We'd rather a foreign national benefits from our country. They can buy.
But again, the issue is you are talking politicians. You are not action-oriented politicians. Because by now, Zambians, if you really think that this needed to be saved, it could have been saved if we had action-oriented.
No, they take advantage.
The sale. You could have staged.
Like what we've said here, will not even make headlines. It's also a call to our people. Your assets are being stolen right before your nose, right before your eyes. Take interest. For us that say these things, we take a very high personal risk to say what we say. Our duty is to give you information. It's up to you to act. And that is why they deliberately reduce our political debates into who has the largest nose, who has the largest hair, who has the largest forehead. Never on the issues we are discussing. Because if we discuss these issues, our people will be riled and they will rise and they will ensure that our leaders are kept accountable. So the other mines, Kasenseli Gold, that's your largest gold find in the history of our country. It's been dormant for the last 2 years. It's been opened, again under marquee arrangements. We know the CMIH is there, but we're asking, who are the new partners? Who are these community associations you've put together? Can you be transparent? It's a good thing that Kasenseli gold mine should open. Like I'm saying, it's the largest gold find in the history of our country. That's a wealthy mine. It requires that it's exploited properly. The reserves that are there, we hear, are extremely good. But provide transparency, shine the light, even on the ownership. If you've created a new vehicle that you've included with ZCMIH, we want to know. Because we know
that the vehicle is the vehicle that the Patriotic Front had left, which you created, and Zamgold.
But they've introduced new vehicles that are participating in that structure.
And of course, this is basically a traditional trust, obviously the chiefdom.
They should tell us that. We should see the shareholding. And nowadays, PACRA is becoming smarter because they know that we rush to PACRA to get this information. It's becoming increasingly difficult. I don't know if they've been given instructions. That's an open register. PACRA must allow us when we go there. We pay a small fee. They should give us. They should not ask questions. If I want to know who owns what, I should be given, so that then we can engage in debates that are devoid of opinions, that are devoid of speculation. Only if institutions like PACRA are independent and providing this information. We're asking, I sent someone to go and pay and get the ownership of Delta structure. It's been 1 week. I'm not getting it.
But isn't it better that it's actually been said to you that Zambia Gold Company is actually overseeing and implementing that in as far as Kasenseli Gold mine is concerned, and that ZCCMIH is involved, and the trust that has been implemented. It's unlike your regime time when you wanted the Sudanese company to come and invest in that particular mine.
No, don't conflate two ideas. The Sudanese,
no, but I'm saying
said the cabinet decision was that let ZCMIH move in and let ZCMIH form a company. In fact, ZCMIH began to do very well in the gold sector. It even began to buy gold from SMEs. Small miners were now taking their gold for certification, weighing, verification, scrutiny, and payment. And by 2021, remember, Bank of Zambia were directed to begin to store value in gold and sell to ZCMIH. And by 2021, a big amount of up to $68 million had been realized from just gold around Mumbwa, Chongwe, Solwezi, where Vubwi, people, small-scale traders were going to the ZCMIH and selling. The ZCMIH dealt with the authenticity, processed it, and we had gold reserves rising up to $68 million at the central bank. That's what a prudent...
And through that, don't you think that your regime was capable to actually process the gold?
Yes, we have to. How much is the processing plant? Is this sheer belief in foreign entities and foreign companies? How much?
That's my argument.
How much is the processing plant?
Yeah, I understand, but this.
Why can't you just pass a simple law, no export of raw gold until it's processed? Why can't you pass a small law? As copper,
so what was
exporting
the essence,
it.
What was the essence in your time wanting to bring in a Sudanese company?
Government didn't bring in a Sudanese company.
But there was intent.
The Sudanese fellow, like any other, can invest in this country. Like the Canadians have invested in First Quantum.
Yeah, but you're contradicting yourself. You're saying we should not always
like the South Africans
for an investment when we can do it ourselves.
That remains so. Why are we relinquishing where we have the strongest opportunity? Why are we relinquishing our duties in the mining sector? The role should be that every large mine must be owned by the CMIH to the extent minimum of 51%. That's the only way our people will realize benefit.
Is it good news to you that ZNS intends to actually open a mining company, a mining plant?
No, it's not good news.
Why not?
ZCM has a primary role, constitutional role. You know, they're supposed to help with food security. They have a particular role. I don't want ZNS to open a mine. What is ZCMIH? Why are you stripping ZCMIH, which has historical and proper vehicle to resolve issues of mining? Why would you allow the ZNS commander to invest in a mine? Why? Give it to the CCMIH. Let him grow maize, let him grow wheat, let him grow vegetables, let him ensure that we are food secure, let him provide training skills for our youths.
They are basically diversifying, and you can't stop them from thinking outside the box.
No, there's a constitutional mandate.
Of course.
Yeah, there's a constitution. We allow them to invest. Let them invest in farms and poultry and cattle and something related to food security.
They can definitely invest in a mine in partnership with ZCMIH. Is that wrong?
Zach, does that make sense? The ZNS should invest in a mine. Remember the commandant even made a very ridiculous announcement that he had sought Chinese investors who would bring in $15 billion. You remember that ridiculous statement? And when we raised storm...
How is it different when you've been calling for NAPSA should have basically invested in the roads? It's not their core business. It's not their core business, but you encouraged that NAPSA should not have actually...
You are conflating issues.
But the idea was that...
NAPSA is a pension fund. Let me clear that.
I do understand.
Yeah, NAPSA is a pension fund. It can have diverse investment. Including in the...
Yeah, I know ZNS.
It's a defense and security wing. It has a primary role, okay? It has a primary role. The Zambia Air Force takes care of our security in the air. Zambia Army, takes security of both our borders, and our Zambia Police takes care of public order. They have constitutionally designed and mandated roles. So does ZNS. So it's very overreaching by the ZNS commander. He may need to read the Constitution and the ZNS Act before he engages in many of the things that he is engaging himself. The issue of national service by ZNS, they have a historical experience. They have a lot of camps across the country that they can turn into, those voluntary skills development. Those are encouraged. But owning a mine, they're looking for investment, a loan. They're looking for a loan of $15 billion from China. Have they spoken to the Minister of Finance? Isn't the Minister of Finance struggling with Zambia's debt of 11 billion? So a small unit, ZNS, is going to borrow $15 billion. What sense is that? Why are they allowing the ZNS commander to be overreaching in his approach and in his announcement? He thought he could acquire the Zambi farm in Chiawa on his own. He carried the media and made those public pronouncements. If it was not for our public protestation, that farm would have been bought by ZNS. The SCC must begin to move in what is happening at ZNS. When you see what is happening at ZDA, for example, where this man dreams of figures, $72 billion investment into our country, does he even understand the entity is running? Does he understand the capacity of our economy? Can one investor who defaults on rentals bring $72 billion? Those are prime suspects for the SEC. That means there is a rot happening. The announcements are being made because someone has chewed, someone is benefiting privately. I've been in government for 20 years and I know what happens. So we just urge entities like ZDA, like the ZNS commander, not to be overreaching. Let them remain to their core mandate.
I find Honorable Muchima's admission that there is a lot of corruption going on in several other government institutions and not only at Ministry of Health as leadership, because you must admit as a leader that there is something wrong.
Yeah. And
it is the only way that you will get things sorted out. I still find that to be a lot of leadership. Unlike your regime refused everything. There is no corruption, and yet a minister is going to court and still refusing there is no
Zach,
corruption.
Be fair.
I find
At
this,
least
I
be
find
fair.
this as
fair.
leadership.
Zach, be fair.
Do you admit that's leadership?
How many people did President Edgar Lungu fire on account of corruption?
It was after
How
a
many?
lot of pressure.
No. How many ministers did he fire? How many matters have we brought to the attention of President Hakainde Hichilema? And he defends the corrupt. You saw when we brought out the issue of one of the ministers, the president says, no, I spoke to the minister and I'm satisfied with his argument. Is that the role of the president? If there is a corrupt allegation, it's not you, Zach. If I'm corrupt or I'm alleged to have received a bribe, you call me and I say, no. No. Your duty is to tell the SEC. They're the ones with the investigative powers and mandate and authority and skills to determine whether I've received a bribe or not. So we see the president rush to their defense.
So
do
you think Honorable Mchima is also defending his PS?
Look at the matter he's saying. He's like saying, why do you want my PS who's accused of awarding himself a contract worth $6.5 million? No, every other place there's corruption at Zambia police and other government wings. It's like he's saying, allow my PS to be corrupt. As if he's the only one who's not corrupt. Everyone else is corrupt. So that admission is in a forked tongue. And it's a very sad admission. Whether it's leadership, whether it's naivety is another matter. But this is what we've been saying, that there is looting going on in this country. Global Fund, who funds Ministry of Health, we hear they've restrained any further funding until there's a forensic audit. Remember, the USAID gives Zambia between $500 to $700 million a year. That fund is threatened. Maybe that's why we are hearing that there's shortage of ARVs. Someone texted me, Ambassador, if Mwate Poluchelo every time, raise an issue of ARVs because there are no ARVs. So I said, that was just this morning. I said, I will take a survey, I'll find out, and maybe I'll write about it tomorrow. So the Americans wouldn't want corruption at Ministry of Health. This matter has been festering for the last 1 week. What has State House and President Hakainde Hichilema done about the corruption of the allegation against Dr. Smonga, Professor Smonga? A diligent leader would suspend him immediately, commission investigation to establish the veracity of these allegations. A decent leader would immediately call for a public reprimand against other officials engaged in corruption. A decent leader would not allow the remarks that have come from Dr. Elijah Mchimanda. I hope that has been quoted correctly, where he says, what is wrong? There's a lot of corruption everywhere else. Look at the corruption at the police. Look at the corruption at other ministries. That, for me, confirms what we've said. My dear brother Fred Membe says, look, if there was theft in the MMD and PF, it was pocket change. These are looters. These are plunderers. And it's coming to light if you see what's happening in the mining sector, what is happening in large procurements, even like ambulances, fertilizer, fuel, and other things. It confirms the fears of our people that this government is engaged in massive looting.
This is the Tuesday edition of The Burning Issue, and thank you very much for staying on this particular program. It's that time when I will definitely be opening the phone lines and giving you an opportunity to call in and interact with our guest. And our guest this morning is Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. He is the Patriotic Front Chairman for Information and Publicity. And the number that you're getting us on is 0955-221515. Remember, we are also live on Tuta FM in Mansa, covering the rest of Luapula province on 90.7 FM. And Spice FM radio is carrying this live in Kabwe and covering the rest of Central Province on 91.1. Here in Lusaka, it's 89.9 and the surrounding areas. And don't forget, we are also live on our Facebook page, that's 5FM Radio Zambia, and live also on Grindstone and Patriotic Front pages, including our guest's page, that is Emmanuel Mwamba. So let me take this particular call. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Mr. Mwamba?
I'm very well, sir. Thank you very much.
Collins, where are you calling us from? From Munali area. Thank you very much for calling, Collins. Please go ahead.
The president is just suspending the ministers each and every time. He might remain around because the PF faction of Lungu is so jealous. Even use that they can appoint you that they can point at you to say you are corrupt. And the management of 5FM, they suspend you. At the end, they find you are guilty. Why? Because of jealous. That's why the president is very much care. Mr. Mwamba, sometimes people you cannot be in government for over 40 years. You are just saying that you have been in government for 20 years. Why can't you retire so that you invest in another business, so that you employ other people who should be employed? Allow people who are coming now from university to involve themselves in politics. So you see that is the selfish which you have with it. And it's true, Mr. But I'm just giving the suggestion to say, please, let us bring these people, politicians, in fair, like the way they do in America, so that we listeners, we can hear the balanced issues between the opposition and the ruling party. Like the way Diamond TV, I don't know if it's a Diamond TV, where they brought Emmanuel Mwamba. So that's what when you hear that good one, not the good one is like when you get a single person from the
Thank you, Collins. Thank you, Collins. The only thing I can tell you is that it's only Emmanuel Mwamba and Max Muye who will accept, and it means we'll have them every day. The rest will not accept such invitations, unfortunately. But thank you for calling. We appreciate your contribution. Let me see if I can take another one. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, morning.
Morning to you. Thank you for calling. Your name, son, where are you calling us from?
Abraham.
Come again?
Abraham.
Abraham, where are you calling us from?
Yes, I'm calling from Wellington.
Please go ahead, Abraham.
Yeah. Is even better than President Lungu? He has got ideas. But the party in which is him, urubalala olwabula nga wabika pambalation kinashishomeza. What I'm saying is, where you are, Mr. Mwamba, PF cannot win. No one can vote for it, Karungo. The way he read us in PF, no one will vote for him. So you are just wasting time. It's better you even form your own party, people will join you. Even you know deep down in your heart that I'm better than President Roma. What ideas has he got? He has no vision. He was just put there by accident. He was there by accident because what normally happens in this country, when the government president is out, the vice president takes over. If the vice president is not there, the Minister of Defense, Minister of Justice, Minister of Justice. Now that time, Ed Karungo was becoming, he was there acting as a Minister of Defense, Justice.
What is your question, Abraham? What is your question?
My question
or contribution in summary?
My question,
yeah.
My question is someone who designed and this is that I move out from their way.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Abraham, for coming. We'll take another one on 0955-221515. That's the number you're getting us on. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Morning to you. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Your name, son, where are you calling us from?
Good morning, Mr. Jamba.
Of the sum of money and government on change the same. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that transaction comes through Parliament.
Which transaction?
The same arrangement where government, where Glencore was around.
I think Glencore was in before the constitution changed in 2016. They think they were on before that.
No, the transaction took place in 2021. So he has a point. I will answer it.
No, as in
Please.
When Glencore bought the shares in
No. When Glencore sold the shares to ZCCMIH, the transaction took place in March 2021. Is that what you're asking?
No, what I want to know, which is the better deal? Because the current situation or scenario people are debating that government is having this 49%, 49%, and then the investor is having 1%, something like that.
Yeah.
As we
So when you say did it go to Parliament, do you mean when Glencore came into when Glencore came into Zambia to buy the 90% shares? Did it go to Parliament? That's your question.
Yeah, that was my question, yes.
Okay.
Like you are saying, that was before the constitution was changed. Okay.
No, I'll answer you anyway, but I've got a question.
Anyway, if I know it comes through Parliament, which you are going to answer, then I don't see how the parliamentarians could allow an investor to get 90% and then the government to take 10%. And this time around, people are saying 49% is not a good deal. Why is the government accept 49%?
Thank you.
And the other, the investor for what? So I don't think so.
Thank you. Thank you very much for calling, Mrs. Chamba. Maybe let's quickly and briefly respond to those three callers.
Yeah, let me start with Collins, who says, I've been in government 20 years and should retire. I've been a professional. My politics, I'm just in my second year. So, in fact, you should be very grateful that I have this massive experience. I, was privileged to be official spokesperson for the second president, Dr. Frederick Chiluba. I was deputy permanent secretary for 10 years. I was permanent secretary for 5 years. The last 8 years, I've been a diplomat in South Africa and in Ethiopia. You should be very glad that you have someone with such massive experience. And a graduate to come here, or someone who has just left school, might not have the wealth of knowledge that the Lord has allowed me to accumulate over this time. So I get that question very often. You cannot substitute experience, because when you substitute experience, you get Hakainde Hichilema, who's learning on the job, who's failing every time, who's engaged in malpractices and breaking the law. That's what you get if you don't have experience. So Collins, aonaka nanchiri umwaiche nkalaluisha chalo cheswichi. Abraham from Lusaka says, I'm a good man, I should form my party. Let me make something very clear. Edgar Lungu is a good man. Edgar Lungu has been a good leader to our country. Look at, you're saying vision, no vision. Of course, that's a total distortion. President Lungu says, I have no vision of my own, because President Sata has left a vision for this country and the party has adopted it. And I'm going to get the vision of the party and of President Michael Sata as my vision. He didn't say, I don't have a vision. He said, I don't have a vision, and went to explain what I've told you. But as usual, opposition propaganda took over and just got that clip where he said, I don't have a vision. But he said, because Michael Sata has a vision for this country, and Michael Sata's a vision has been adopted by our party, so I will work on the party of, on the vision of the party. And just look what Edgar Lungu did. Really, his legacy comparable is wonderful. Look at the roads and bridges that he built. Look at the schools, colleges and universities that he built. Look at the airports that he built. Look at the investment in the agriculture sector. We'll have fertilizer. In May, it will be in depots and sheds across the country, in all districts and all provinces. We are in November. I want to achieve Landa, Pali fertilizer not reaching them, or inadequate fertilizer being with them. So, Collins, I think mnaverenga sana ututuma newspaper to our UPND. So, the perception that they create, you have turned it into a reality. President Lungu was Minister of Defense, Minister of Justice. He was acting president, among one of the best cabinets you've had in this country. But, President Sata found him suitable to run with that. He had been a member of parliament before that. He's been a distinguished lawyer. Don't listen to the propaganda. He was legal secretary for very powerful entities like Barclays at the time, Zambia State Insurance Corporation. He worked there, in his capacity as a lawyer. So don't believe this propaganda that, no, he's not a good lawyer, no, what, Ishani. Just look at his record. However, names of Alanda Tibadi Sambira, but were disciplined, Tabanwa, Fish Batupele, Tensala Batupele. They've broken the country in pieces. They're failing to hold the unity of this country together. So where is the education, the experience, and the sobriety? Why can't it translate? And Zach, I was amused by President Hakainde Hichilema in Mansa telling our chiefs that, have you seen what I've done in the last 3 years? Who didn't you want us to continue? Imisebo, takulinda lama, fertilizer tailafika. They are complaining. Namukaka bantu besu. And he is boasting that, see what I've done in the last 3 years. I think the president needs a wake-up reality. He needs to speak to people outside his circle, because he seems to speak to people that are telling him lies every day. Like Collins, he's beginning to believe the lie that he has succeeded in the last 3 years. And
because of time, let's go to Schamba, who would want to understand
the issue
when
of
Glencoe got the 90%.
No, I think, Zach, before we even belabor the point, I think you are right. I thought he was talking about...
no, not exit.
Yeah, the purchase. The purchase was way back in 2003. Yeah. So you were right. The new constitution that mandates us to involve parliament by 2/3 majority came later. Yes. So it's very clear. Glencoe bought Mopani. I think that was between 1999 and 2001. Yeah. So you were right. So don't even belabor the other point that I wanted to belabor.
Great. So let's take some more calls on 0955-221515. Good morning. Nabomba fe wena ngathi mabomba shani kwa.
Endita ya mabadishani.
Babwali are within Lusaka. Please go ahead, Babwali.
Bamwamba. Bakofimu uweze careful. Natonse ini mupangire. Yoze ezita tulefwa abantu bakwati bakabashite nabo bage kuyupi momufwenye. So wose umwe yindika wose koso ko mukaya. Ni batuma kubreni umuntu. So umuntu akatishishana ngwawe. Those who are overexcited, the anticipation and you all put content. What I say is one break that is. Because PF our issue. Bantu what was a sponsor, what participation, education, like you are working on like you are not an issue. Education, then second, and this is what you know 2016. Ukusenda abantu abarongo ukusa PF eba ifo PF yefe yakwazata lunga ngayikonga lele sibatata babasitira nabantu aba di right apingo nemali alomanga in na breaking babina abashire tisho mu PF abashire tisho na tisho 2011 year this are bari mu abadi abantu bashire tam PF momuni. So Musambia Musa Tottenham in 2016, they finished the cup. We let down to our whereby I can share again. I can like you clean, but it's sharing like information. We send you to a party, but a friend and chin. Now, fighting a friend this way. Now, push up with
Tottenham. So, let me give you a quick comment on, well, it's not quick, but it's a long comment. It's Kebi Jupa on Facebook says, good morning 5FM radio, most obliged for this platform. My greetings to the capable Honorable Mwamba there. Indeed, I agree that the ambulance issue under Ministry of Health is a big scandal. Someone or some people has to exculpate themselves. Otherwise, I'm in love with the UPND's impetus to develop our nation, Zambia. And they are gradually doing that, and the country is going in the right direction. Even the Honorable there knows beyond any doubt. His Excellency HH, continue doing what you are doing, sir. We love you, and the country is behind you. The Tonse Group and the PF, please continue offering checks and balances for HH to continue developing this country. One Zambia, one people. Mr. Zach, I submit. Thank you very much, Kebi, for that. But let me give you another call. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Iyo ndifye bwino ndi wamtende mbuya.
Ni mwa babani? Ba James mletu mina kwe? Kuka banana.
Watonda langu. Napanga pati ya kwa Mungu. Imine atiti mulika abantu bakaba washitwe. Bakifika kiruka hiyo. Takwa yana ukauka na twalikile hofu sana Mungu ukiuko. Uka leo kutukwete nomba. Ile atanga wakikia tiki. So hapa nomba dalika na maka unaweze na hofu na vota askati na familia ndio. Na tisunga pali tonda langu. So tonda hiyo naika. Bayutenji usafabo nze bayutenji bakangiwa toto daona maraiti siaoneka oyadule siaoneka unga tuoneka oyadule tuoneka yoto safa kudura wantu kuti mulinde nataka kuti mugule unga labda kuti pati yakanga sikupenda mtame wakaunda pandawi ni kuti eme mtini yapo tazikauza kubondi nakara kubondi atakukwela kupati kwa chao chinchao ya kutumia kamba wote wa mulonga wala chini vaku ino chile mazandi ya tuwa zote mungu sunga mtu watu wa pipia watu wa muja kutiwa bewa kuti soke iche kutiwa kaule wai kwa kuchara zote na zili bayo maimandi so mwamena kambia Mwamba ni ikani zele una warungu mwende mauze kuti isema Zambia ni behind the na mawena telezea na kamera kwa tufuno kita mziko to tuna wasilidite chibuka ziko inaingilia banana toka inaingia pale panja kana kwa nini kwenda kuduza unga na kuduliza mjengo wa malaiki na malaiki wa shading kuile tatu na sio kuipeleka kwa Mwamba unga wanataka kupeleka pakite kwacha ndio tunataka kwa 250 wanakuambiwa kwa hivyo so baonekana mtu akangiwa to mwendelo wa mtaona mtu huyu mdara eti akangiwa chukua cha walungu wa kweli
ziko mama James ziko yeah ziko. So there you have it. Let me quickly give you one more text. Is Isaac Simbaya says, good morning 5FM, and Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba, you are explaining very well. We are listening. I'm Isaac from Garden House. It's almost 2 weeks we don't have water. They are heartless. No power. How are we going to survive? Sure, the dollar is something else. Where is the 10-point plan? They told us we are still waiting for Dubai formula, which they promised us. One quick one, Bafanazi Batizani on Facebook says, wonderful program, Zach. Mr. Mwamba, what you are doing is absolutely good work. We don't want people to go into government and do business with government. Mr. Mwamba, don't stop Tuapapata, and please prepare yourself for your holiday is over. 5 years is enough. Don't give us excuses this 2026. One more call, then I let you respond. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Good morning to you. Hey, morning. Thank you for calling. Your name? Sia.
Good morning, sir.
Come again?
You are speaking so well. And if you are going to continue telling the Zambian people what this government they are doing, I am sure Zambian people realize to say, okay, this is what they were saying. When we said that we should not allow the Europeans to take over the realm of this thing. Because we knew exactly what they were supposed to do. We knew their plan for the assets of this country. Okay? This is why we said you cannot allow people who participated in privatization to come and rule the country, to have power. What more damage are they going to cause? And the damage has started already being seen. How do you give Mopani for a song, a Zambian asset, a public property you give for a song, and you start dancing, but you know, not to womba. Eh? Mwamba, is there any possibility that you can file an injunction to stop this sale of Mopani? Is there any possibility of that, sir?
Are you done, sir? Mr. Siame? Yeah.
Property in this country like we did in 1990. We can't. Like the way you reverse the issue of a Zamtel. Can it be micro-statistics to Zamtel? If it can be done, can you start with the legal proceeding so that this asset can be brought back to the Zambian people? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, Mr. Mwamba.
Thank you very much, Zach. most of the contributions were comment, and I think there was one question from someone who was warning us that we have to be careful with these alliances. Our appeal is to our leaders, whether they are councillors, they are MPs, they are mayors, they are members of the Central Committee, is that there is an attempt by President Hakainde Hichilema to foster a one-party state. He's trying to buy everyone, silence everyone, arrest everyone. If he can't buy you, he can arrest you. If he can't arrest you, he can lock you up or they can marginalize you. But just be strong for our people. Be strong for Zambia. Zambia is a multi-party state. It was designed that we, the opposition, must have a stake in the country. The president and his ruling party must be given room to operate. So must we. The harassment against the opposition, the restricted space for our operation, the tampering of the 2026 elections that we see is going on must stop. Zambia is bigger than President Hakainde Hichilema. It's bigger than Emmanuel Mwamba. It's bigger than all of us. Zach, with your permission, there is a statement of concern that we had issued yesterday regarding traditional ceremonies. And we fear, and it has now become very clear that...
I would be comfortable if you answered Mr. Siame first. The question that he says, is there a way that we can file for an injunction to halt the complete or to stop, the Mopani sale?
I might not go into strategies, but our duty is to tell Zambians that the illegal transfer of Mopani to International Resource Holding and Vedanta, totally illegal, the failure to go to Parliament for parliamentary approval, the fraudulent process of acquiring 51%.
Reasons that Mr. Siame is saying
we
those
go to court.
Enough reasons to go to court if you feel.
Yes, he may have a lot of faith in our courts, but remember, even the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops has warned the Chief Justice Mumba Malila that your judiciary has abandoned its role that is prescribed in the Constitution. It's lending itself out to the executive. Look, they're not giving bail pending appeal, which is literally constitutional, to people that have been affected politically. They are just being punished. GBM, they've refused to give him bail pending appeal. Nixon Chilangwa, they've refused to give him bail pending. Ronald Stotela, and the other five, Francis Muchemwa, everyone that has recently been jailed, they've refused to give them bail, which is literally an entitlement. So you have a lot of faith in the judiciary, but you might have to read what the Catholics are saying and their appeal to the Chief Justice. So our hope in the judiciary is fast waning, as noted not just by the Catholic, but also by human rights organizations, especially human rights organizations. They, just what this opposition are suffering. So maybe this may be a subject for the new government, but we must not stop trying. I will lay your concerns, and even personally, I think that we should try. There could be some sacred, respected men in there in the judiciary. We shouldn't really lose hope. Maybe we should take such matters, especially to place them on record, that in future we can refer to them. Zaka was saying that we have this statement that we had issued yesterday regarding President Hakainde Hichilema's action to turn traditional ceremonies into political rallies and political meetings for the UPND. And the meetings have also been turned into endorsement for his candidature in 2026. He keeps on parading members of the opposition, renegade MPs from the PF and other members of the opposition, and they are turning respected traditional ceremonies into political outfits. This desecration to our traditional and culture is not accepted, and it's not acceptable. The traditional leaders, we've made a passionate appeal to them to get control. We like what happened in Western Province during the Kuomboka. There was an attempt by President Hakainde Hichilema to hijack that ceremony. They even made it very clear that he wasn't even invited, as a guest of honor. That's what we expect other chiefs and chiefdoms to do, to ensure that you depoliticize this process. President Hakainde Hichilema is taking advantage. If you look at the traditional ceremony and the gathering, it's becoming a UPND rally, all littered with UPND regalia. He's desecrating our culture and our traditions. And their Royal Highnesses should not allow this to happen. The damage will be very lasting.
Mr. Mwamba, your concluding remarks.
Thank you very much, Zach. Thank you to you, Zach, and to management and 5FM for giving us these opportunities every time they rise. We are grateful to our people who called both for and against, including those that want me to retire. I still think that I can throw punches. What I have, I was privileged to be
I believe you mean political punches.
Yeah. Even physical punches. I'm a karateka, so I can floor you down.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I'm grateful to all the callers, what they contributing. This country is in a serious crisis, and we require to save it. It requires redemption, not by anybody else. It will not be the crisis we have is not going to be saved by foreign entities, multinationals, or these companies, or foreign investors. It's going to be saved by you and me. So God bless you. God bless our country. Shalom, shalom, and thank you, Zach.
Thank you very much for coming, Ambassador Mwamba. We appreciate. And thank you to you, our listeners who followed the